What's going on, everyone? Taylor Kyles here, coming at you with another episode of Pat's Daily, brought to you by our good friends at Prize Picks and Game Time. Got a special episode for y'all today. Offseason could be a time where there's not a whole lot to talk about, but we do have some fun news and a very fun interview talking about some expectations set for some of the Patriots' second-year defensive backs. And to help me break it down, I got somebody who I personally learned a lot from and have used as an outstanding resource for myself. He's also an outstanding coach in his own right, Mr. Coach Flight, defensive back and linebacker performance and skills trainer of the Stars. Coach Flight, how you doing, brother? Thank you so much for joining the pod.
Man, thank you for having me. Doing good.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so before I get into the players and everything that you've been doing to help them out, I want everybody to know a little bit more about you. So as a coach, tell me about what some of your styles are and some of your core philosophies are when you're working with these guys.
So pretty much what we do is we work on only things that apply to the game directly. So, I try to keep these guys' minds sharp as far as what coverages, what to do in certain situations and things like that. Just making sure they're well prepared to perform on Sundays.
Awesome. Fantastic. Now, when it comes to you, been working with Christian Gonzalez and Marte Mapu. I know Alex Dawson's a new guy that you're going to be working with. So how did you actually end up connecting with those guys, especially Alex? Because, again, I don't want to get too deep into it. I know you haven't worked together yet, but how did you all end up working together? I'm sorry. Could you hear me?
I'm sorry. I think I got a bad connection here.
You're good. Can you hear me now?
Coming in and out.
How we doing now?
Okay,
any better now?
We're good. Yeah. So as far as Christian, I've been training him since he was a freshman in high school. Going into his sophomore year, working on him with the little details and things, getting him prepared for that high school game and then the college game and so on. And then I actually met Marte this past offseason. So, Marte was down here working out with one of the pretty good speed and agility guys and strength guys in the game, and Mo Wells and Brian McCall. So then he happened to see me and was like, yo, I'm trying to get some work in. After the first session, we hit it off, and he's one of the hardest working guys that I've ever worked with. Like, Marte he's a guy you got to tell to kind of, hey, like, slow down a little bit. And then Alex Austin actually works with a good buddy of mine, Ja'Cory Nichols, down in Houston. So he's going to come up and help with that DB retreat that we're doing. So, he reached out and was like, hey, I'd like to get in on that. And I'm like, well, come on, man. We'd be happy to have you. Heard nothing but good things about him. Watch those last few games where he's put on a good showing to kind of showed everybody what type of competitor he is. So looking forward to also getting with him as well and helping sharpen his tools.
And with Alex Austin, again, still kind of new to him, but from what you saw on tape, what were some of your first impressions of him, his game, his playing style? Because what stood out to me, man, one of the ball skills, like that play he made against the Bills on Josh Allen was crazy. But also he brings some swagger to that Patriots secondary, which you wouldn't expect from a guy who kind of bounced around as a rookie, finally found his place with the Patriots. So what did you see watching his tape?
Man, just the same thing you said. It's a lot of confidence. To make some of those plays, it's more than just like them just happening. Like you got to really be in the film room. You got to really, have been working on your game and working on those situations to understand, like you said, that play was amazing. Squeeze the post, happened to relocate over the outside shoulder, find the football again and make a play that he really wasn't supposed to make, So when you know the ins and outs of the defense, that's just him going to make a real good play right there, because that's a tough play for anybody. I don't care what corner it is. So that was a very elite play by him, and it just kind of showed you a little bit what he's about. Like some of these guys, sometimes all you need is a chance. When you keep bouncing around from team to team, and then the right fit, right scheme works for you.
And one thing he credited after the game for that pick was how he worked with Mike Pellegrino and how he was actually prepared and knew what was coming on that play specifically. I personally think Mike Pellegrino, Patriots cornerbacks coach, is one of the most underrated position coaches in the NFL. So what do you know about Mike Pellegrino and the kind of coach that he is in his own respect?
Man, absolutely. I agree with you 100% on that. Very underrated. The knowledge of the game, I think that when you look at him making it from this last staff to this new staff, it's just kind of showing you the respect that he has around the building on actually developing these guys and working with them. So, and I don't think Bill Belichick's going to bring in any guys that don't know the game to help coach positions. So, I mean, that alone tells you a lot that he was stamped by, arguably one of the greatest coaches in the game to ever coach. And then, just from what I've heard and kind of the conversations that we've had, man, he has a real love for the players. He's all about, doing what works for them. It's like there's not a set mold to say, hey, this is the way you only could do it this way. It's like, hey, this works for this guy, this works for that guy. So he lets the guys be themselves.
And how uncommon is that actually to have a coach who's willing to work with the player's skill set? Because from an outsider's perspective, it sounds like something that would just happen naturally, but it sounds like maybe that doesn't happen as often as you think.
Well, I mean, it all depends on the staff and like the philosophy of the staff. I saw something the other day where, a certain team was referring to how under one coach, it was really relaxed. They had a lot of fun, and it was like they played hard because of the love and of how that guy treated them. And then now under this new staff, it's like a little more military stylish, and like they're demanding excellence. So it's kind of like it depends on the philosophy of the head coach and then those guys that he brings in, because some people understand, like, this is a forever changing game. From year to year, techniques have to change, the rules change. We can't really touch them as much as we used to. We can't really be as disruptive. So now it's all about being in the right place. So, some techniques might not work in this new game that may have worked, 5 to 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And you're hoping this Patriots offensive staff, obviously a ton of changes. The defensive side does have some consistency. But like you talk about, the Patriots used to be kind of more of a military style overall. Now going to more of a like Gerard Mayo style, where you want the players to be accountable and feel like they have a role in the defense. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But you mentioned you've been working with Christian Gonzalez since he was a freshman. That's pretty crazy for a guy who's such a crazy athlete. His whole family is a bunch of fantastic athletes. What's it been like working with a guy like him, who I'm assuming has always just been a mold of clay that you could try to turn into, obviously, the superstar that we saw kind of start to emerge early last season?
Absolutely. Christian is one of those guys that's good at everything he does, man. Like, I can take a little to no credit for any of his success, man, because this kid, he picks up a basketball. He looks like a guy that can go play in the NBA. The other day I seen him, he sent the video, it might have been last summer. He went to a golf range, and I'm like, dude, when did you learn how to play golf? And he was like, man, that was my first day. I'm like, dude, you're swinging like a professional, like, So I joked with him and said, when he gets down here, we got to go to Top Golf and see what he really got, But it's just one of those things. Like, he was a big-time receiver when he was here in high school and arguably one of the best receivers in the country. And then, that led to where it was like, hey, my team needs me to play defense as well. And he just rose to the occasion. And then we kind of knew early on that defense was where he was going to succeed at long-term. And a lot of people thought he was a safety, but I'm like, man, this kid can run with anybody. He never really had been pushed. And the funniest story is, in high school, Christian was, he ran 1 year track. And it was like, all right, well, I'm going to see what's up with this track stuff. And he goes to state. And it's like, and then I'm like, well, you're running the 200-meter dash. And then he's jogging the curve because he didn't know how to run it. He's jogging the curve. And then he just went and goes and got everybody on the straightaway. So I'm like, just imagine if somebody actually told him, hey, this is a full-out sprint, buddy. Like, you got to go. Like he may have been a professional track athlete for all we know, but he's just so talented, man. And he's very attention to detail. So the minor things, like a mistake that he makes, to the person who doesn't play the position or who doesn't train how we train, they go, oh, that's a great rep. And then to him, he's like, no, I got to do it again because my foot was this much out of frame, or my arm went that much back too far. And I think that's what's helped him kind of get to where he is today, because like he's never satisfied with like average or like just okay or even just good. Like, it has to be perfect, like great. And that just keeps pushing him to keep coming back and learning more things and working harder. And then, I step it up for him every time, just because it's like I understand that that's what he needs to get to that next level.
And that's what all the greats do, right? All those guys are crazy detail-oriented, all the stuff that we might overlook. They're very, very particular about that. And I'm sure that pushes you as a coach, like how they talk about how Tom Brady, we would go into meetings, and it's like, as a coach, you got to be prepared because there's stuff that he's going to challenge you on. So for a guy like Christian, like you mentioned, how he was a receiver, went to cornerback, I feel like that's something that could kind of fly under the radar because wide receivers, they get all the attention, they get the glory. But as a cornerback, a good game for you is if no one ever hears your name called. So what does that say about Christian, the person? Also, being somebody who works with him, we know him as kind of a quiet guy who goes about his business, but what's he like maybe behind the scenes that might surprise Patriots fans?
Oh, man, it's the same all the way around, man. I spent years like to where we had a relationship where it was like I'm just asking little silly questions just to see if he'll talk. And then now it's to the point to where he's opened up a lot. His personality is definitely changing. He's a lot more comfortable speaking and asking questions. But he always was a question guy. It just wouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our settings were always one-on-one or in small groups. So now it's like you have guys who are coming in town to train with us that are like, yo, what's up with this guy? Like I want to know what he knows. I want to learn what he learns. And I'm like, yo, it's not what he's learning. It's how he's taking it and putting his own twist on it. So,
Okay.
like he has a lot of things that and he's really a funny guy. Like you guys gotta like once he opens up, man, he's full of jokes. He the smile is permanent. He smiles even when he thinks he's in trouble. When he's messing up, he smiles. Like he's just one of those guys, man, where he's just so laid back and he loves the game so much. But from the outside, it's easy to be like, man, this guy, is he even trying? Like, yeah, he's trying, but it's just that effortless. Like he's just that good at it. So,
and that's what excites me watching his tape, man. As a cornerback, when you make that look easy, especially as a rookie, that's something you don't see a whole lot. There's no panic in his game. And I definitely want to get a little more into that success he had. Obviously, was only really on the field for a month, but had an outstanding month. Won NFL Defensive Rookie of the Month in September. But before we get into that, quick word from our friends over at Prize Picks. Be right back. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. With the NBA Finals over, the hoops action doesn't stop on Prize Picks. Women's basketball is just heating up, with stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese looking to make names for themselves, alongside greats like Breanna Stewart and Asia Wilson. You can earn up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I made my first $10 deposit and received an instant $10 bonus. If you have the skills, you can play for a shot at turning your $10 into $1,000. I've got Caitlin Clark for more than 3.5 3-points made and Breanna Stewart for more than 23 points. For baseball, I've got Kyle Schwarber for more than 9-hitter fantasy score and Bryce Miller for more than 4 pitcher strikeouts. Download the app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. So, Coach, when Christian Gonzalez was coming out of the draft process, also kind of leading up to the season, there was some skepticism about his toughness and his physicality and whether or not he'd be able to hang with guys in the NFL. And then week 1, he's got to go up against a guy like A.J. Brown, one of the most physical players in the NFL. I was actually surprised to see him on the boundary from week 1 because I'm thinking, all right, maybe they'll try to ease him in. It was pretty clear that this team was like, nope, you are a guy. We're going to put you on an island in tough situations and see how you acquit yourself. And the dude was gangbusters. Like I said, NFL Defensive Rookie of the Month, no small feat. So from your perspective, what was it that allowed him to have such quick success? Obviously, I know a lot of it was already what was built into him. I think he was more of a dog than he got credit for. But what did you see from the tape and also behind the scenes?
So they pretty much ran a similar scheme to what he ran in college. Like this was a perfect fit for him. Despite it being, of course, him going at 17, which, we would have wanted that back again. But, it was a perfect fit because they actually run an NFL style defense at Oregon. So it was a similar defense. He already knew the ins and outs of it. He already knew he physically came in as probably one of the better guys already. And it was just obvious that, from what he did in college compared to that transition to the pros, there was like, he already was fit for the game. He already had the body, the athleticism, the smarts and things like that. So it was more so of just us getting to actually see it. Not many people stayed up late and watched Oregon's games, besides the primetime games. And then, how it is where they had a tough out-of-conference matchup first game of the season against Georgia where, Georgia was the best team in the country. And they showed it start to finish. And then you have, from that point on, it was just pure domination for Christian, and he went up against some pretty good guys. And when we look back on it, like Rome Odunze, he had a really good game against him, and Mike Penix and those guys that were kind of avoiding throwing at him because they knew, like, he's a stud. And then, the revenge game against Colorado, just kind of showing like what he was about, and what type of player he really was, how he could find the football and make plays on the ball and things like that. So, I wasn't shocked with the A.J. Brown performance, or any of them that followed behind it because, arguably he had one of the better combines we probably ever seen out of a defensive back, well-rounded from as far as the athleticism to the drills to catching the football to tracking it. Like, he showed everybody, coming up to that point that he was prepared for that.
Yes, sir. And you mentioned it wasn't just A.J. Brown. He was going against Devontae Smith, started the Dolphins game against Jalen Waddle, switched to Tyreek, Garrett Wilson, CeeDee Lamb. Again, he was playing some of the best wide receivers in the NFL and never looked like he was out of place. Also, funny you mentioned the Washington game. We asked him about Jalen Polk, and it was like, oh, how familiar are we with him, obviously, in the same conference? He was like, yeah, he had a good game against us. He had a touchdown, but that wasn't against me. He made sure we knew that was not on me. I was doing my job. That was really funny. So, obviously, his season didn't end the way any of us wanted to. Unfortunately, suffered the torn shoulder and missed the rest of the year. So I'm curious, we don't really know how guys are able to, continue to rise and grow as players when you're suffering through that injury. So what was he able to do behind the scenes to continue to grow, obviously, as he worked his way back?
Well, he continued to work. He went out to LA and got that taken care of. And just as soon as he was cleared, he was back at it, and it was more so of like, it was like a red shirt year. He's never missed a year of football. So this was the time for him to kind of, get to know himself a little bit more and really find that more of that competitive fire that he already had. But just imagine how bad he's itching now to get back out there and kind of show everybody. Because like you said, he started the year off as the NFL Rookie of the Month. And then the next month, his buddy Devin Witherspoon went and got it. So, it was an open competition right there. We had two guys that are, going to go back and forth all year, in that hunt for the defensive rookie of the year, hopefully. And then, injuries happen. And, it was a freak accident that happened with him and stuff like that. And he's going to be better for it this year. It's going to help him change his game for the better. He kind of knows what he can and can't do. And I think more of his strengths are going to come out this season for everybody to see.
Yes, sir. And it's a testament to his work ethic. He's been on the field in the spring, was active, was taking part. And that says a lot for a guy who, again, was trying to work his way back to get out there really quickly. Now, talking about another guy who's shown some resilience, Marte Mapu.
Yes,
now,
sir.
There's been a lot of debate about where he's supposed to play. Gerard Mayo said he's kind of like a bigger safety, bigger slot corner, smaller linebacker. I have insisted that he is a safety in their scheme because of the way they use those safeties. You can line up literally anywhere depending on the package and what the play is. But from your perspective, is there a certain role where you think Marte would really thrive the most?
I think Marte is going to do a lot of great things in coverage this year. We spent a lot of time this offseason working on feet, hips, his coverage ability. And Marte is actually just a very big safety. So no matter whether that's him playing in at a nickel position, him playing in at a star or whatever, these guys want to call it, he's essentially doing the same thing in different packages under different names. And Marte is a competitor, man, and he's another one that's like, hey, we finished the workout. He's staying after, close to 45 minutes to an hour, whether it be stretching. I've seen him today coaching up a former teammate. Him and another teammate were out there, the guy who played for the Patriots last year, and they were just going through some footwork stuff, and he took the time to like, hey, man, let me help you out real quick, and let me show you kind of what I've learned. And that's just him. He had a time where he brought like 4 or 5 guys from his college down here to Frisco to work out with us and made sure those guys were working and made sure that, that he kept them in line and showed them this is what it takes to get to where we're at. Like, they don't just hand these positions out. You got to go get them. And I have a ton of respect for Marte, man. I think Marte is going to build on this rookie year. I think he's going to earn a lot more snaps. And I think his position versatility is going to really help that defense grow because you're adding speed essentially to a linebacker position that now we can play. He's +1 in the run game. He's big enough to cover tight ends. He's smooth enough to cover slots, So, and then he also, if Duggar wants to come down and play that, Marte can go to the post and be the post safety. So he's bringing a lot of versatility to that defense.
Yes, sir. I'm not just saying this because you're here, but truly, Christian Gonzalez and Marte Mapu were two of my favorite picks from the Patriots last season. One, because I thought it would really allow them to expand what they did in coverage. You saw that with Christian, where the year before that, they didn't really have that one corner who they could put on the boundary and say, you are going to be the guy we put on an island, and maybe allow other people to do what they do elsewhere. And like you mentioned with Marte, the fact that he can line up in a bunch of different positions is huge for the defense. And as a rookie, I did not expect him to be the third safety on a team that uses a lot of third safety packages. So obviously, may not have been the year that he necessarily expected. I mean, obviously, you're in the NFL playing as much as he was playing. I also feel like playing in the post maybe was a little different for him. Like when we spoke, he mentioned that was something he was still learning about. But it was only the first year in a very complex defense playing a difficult role. I can't emphasize that enough. So what do you think Patriots fans can expect from Marte in year 2 now that he's got a season under his belt and maybe a little more comfortable in this defense?
I sense an expanded role. I think they will be using that 3 safety package more than often. I think that it's going to be something that's going to be like a staple for that defense. As the D line has gotten better, we're going to see guys like Keon step up and do some things, and then we're going to get the edge rusher back from last year that missed half a season, and then from there, and Judon, and then it's like, if these guys stay healthy, they can be a top defense in the NFL, like one of the top. There's a lot of guys that can do a lot of good things. Secondary has a lot of moving pieces in it with guys that can come in and come out, sub for one another. And I really have confidence in the scheme. I think Mayo and Belichick are going to do some good things over there. Mayo specifically, excuse me, and it's gonna do some good things with that defense as far as maximizing the talent they have. Like you mentioned earlier, a guy like Gonzo being able to come in and play the boundary is huge because that allows them to do some more things to the field. If you don't have to shade coverage over your rookie, you can really move around and do some things. And the same thing goes for when you bring Marte in and he's picking up the playbook and he's flying around making those plays. It makes it easier to not have to feel like we have to get a guy to learn the nickel package or get another linebacker to learn how to play Sam when you can have one guy that can do both. So, yes, I mean, he could be a 3-down guy at that position and not have to come in and out the game. And I think that's what's going to make it just vital for that defense is to add more speed, add more skill to that defense.
And you mentioned Keon White, so now I got to ask. Nothing too crazy, but what are your thoughts on him? Because he's another guy, adds a lot of versatility, especially that defensive front. He can play inside, outside, hand in the dirt, standing up. What are your thoughts on him and maybe what Patriots fans can expect from him in his sophomore season?
Man, I think this is going to be a huge year for Keon, man. Keon's such a freak show. Like, he's strong. He's a nasty guy. You want your D-line to have some nasty guys, man. And Keon is a guy that's not going to shy away from contact, man. I think he's going to intimidate and impose his will in a lot of O-lines this year, man. And that's another piece there, another young guy that came in that I feel like they got a steal out of. I thought he was a surefire first-round guy. And, they get a steal out of him in the second. And, man, I just feel like that's going to be a big impact player for that D-line.
Talk about somebody who doesn't back down. I know you were at that Packers joint practice last year where you saw that Keon was not backing down from any of those boys. He's got real hot and testy.
Yeah, anybody, man. And that's just him, man. That's him. Like, and it's just pure raw energy. And, and it's good to have guys like that balance out with your, Gonzo and Marte kind of chiller guys, they got the whole West Coast thing going on with it. But I mean, when the lights are on, man, and it's game time, those guys all show up and contribute in their own way.
Yes, sir. All right, I got a couple more questions before I get you out of here. But first, quick word for our friends over at Game Time. Be right back.
Nothing says summer quite like a live baseball game. And whenever I want to check out a Red Sox game at Fenway, I'm using Game Time, the best place for last-minute deals on tickets. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. With Game Time, it's as easy as finding the game you want to attend, getting a view of the entire stadium to see what prices look like in different areas, and they actually do you a favor and show you both the cheapest tickets available and the best deals. You can also get the view from the seat that you pick, and between their lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection, there's really no better option than Game Time. And with Game Time's lowest price guarantee, the app will actually credit you 110% of the difference if you find a cheaper ticket elsewhere. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
All right, coach. So any player, no matter how long you've been in the NFL, this time of year is really about trying to improve. All right. So for guys like Christian Gonzalez and Marte Mapu, obviously they've only been in the league 1 year. So there's still a lot of places to grow. What would you say for each of those guys, or maybe some of the biggest area improvements where you're looking to see them grow in year 2?
So we touched on it earlier a little bit. Christian, with just his physicality, like I think that since he's so naturally gifted, he doesn't have to be as physical as others. You know, he can run with anybody, like I said, jump with anybody. He's got ball skills out of this world. But sometimes it's okay to, impose your will on guys. So I think we're going to see him be a little bit more aggressive this season and kind of show us, like, hey, I'm a true shutdown corner. I think it's going to be a very big year for him. There's a great schedule to show once again, just like last year was, start the year off against some very talented guys and just show, like, hey, week in, week out, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going to be. And then with Marte, it's just going to be able to show that coverage ability. He flashed Kansas City Chiefs game, made a big-time play, and I think it's going to be a lot of that this year because you got a guy, once again, that's his size to cover tight ends. That's a game changer. Not every team has a guy that's going to be big and quick enough and strong enough to neutralize the tight end. And I think that if he can show people what he can do with that, it's going to probably change the way that a lot of teams draft and play going forward because, let's be honest, in the NFL, a lot of these offenses in the AFC have pretty solid athletic tight ends. Like we're talking about the Kelseys, the Mark Andrews, the Njokus, these guys that can really run and get open. So, you need an eraser, a guy like that who can come in and put hands on a guy like that and take him on in the run game and things like that. That'll, once again, it gives you an unaccounted for guy that's going to be able to make plays, help out your D-line, help out your linebackers, help out your safeties by having a guy like that can do plenty of things, man.
Yep. We're already seeing him lock up tight ends this spring. So already making a little bit of that impression. And you mentioned that pick against the Chiefs. I never got a chance to ask him. It looked to me like he was baiting Mahomes because I'm like, he's standing there. I'm like, he knows this ball's coming out. He's just waiting for that thing to let it fly. That was one of my favorite plays for the entire season.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where it's like, man, you see it on film so much. So then when it happens in the game, it's like, he's not really going to do this, is he? Like, he has to see me here. But, It's just like the same way we watch tape, they watch tape. So I'm sure Pat probably saw something that looked like a green light to him. And Marte made a hell of a play. It's peeling out of a spot and jumping in front of that and taking that ball away from somebody else. That's a play that, it's not as easy as it looks, like we discussed. Like a lot of these plays that are being made are super hard plays that these guys are, they're putting the time in the offseason. They're watching the film. They're studying to be able to be in the position to make those plays.
Yes, sir. Now, it's also so fans have a better understanding. This is a part of the year where it kind of seems like summer break, but it's not for players. They're still trying to get better. So when it comes to your coaching and what you're doing with these guys, what are you looking to accomplish during kind of this break period to get them ready for training camp and, the entire season?
The goal is to have them prepared to walk right in, pass a conditioning test, be able to contribute right away. We're already in shape. We're already ready to go. We never take these long breaks, for that reason, because like this is your job, so, it's cool to get your vacations in and stuff like that, which they do. They take their vacations, but then they're also working on these vacations. So, this is the final, last couple of weeks where we're able to actually, sharpen our skills before we go back. And then the next time I see these guys will be next offseason. Well, as far as for training purposes, we'll get out to games and stuff like that and check them out, or we can always talk ball and stuff like that, during the week. But this is huge for these guys, because, I see a lot of guys, either making offseason or breaking offseason here. Some of the vets are just now kind of starting to ramp it up, because they've been in the league so long where it's like, hey, now some guys are just putting on cleats for the first time this offseason. Like, hey, the next 3 weeks, I'm going to hit it hard to get ready for what's taking place, in August. So, for us, the goal is to come in, if you're not a starter, we're coming in challenging starters. We're coming in and we're going to try to find a way to force our way onto the field, So I'm looking forward to some of these young guys stepping it up and, like just like we discussed with Alex Austin, like it's an opportunity. Everybody's starting it from scratch. I believe that, Gonzo's probably solidified his spot, but that number 2 corner spot is is a lot of guys to lose. And, I mean, there's some good guys over there. The Joneses, all the guys last name Jones that they have that are really good, and I think Alex is good. And I think Alex has a chance to really go in there and solidify himself as a corner in the NFL, and just find that role, find his identity in the defense. And then, same thing with Marte. Is like, hey, we're expecting more snaps, but we still got to go get them. We got to go take them. Mm-hmm. They're not just going to give you anything you don't work for. So I'm knowing he's going to go in there and do what he has to do these next couple weeks. We're already locked in. Like I said, we started back today, and he's talking about going 5-6 days straight. So we have recovery days built in there. We've got, certain days we're going to do different things just to help get them prepared. Mm-hmm. Get them prepared. I mean, it's 100 degrees out here in Texas. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, we got some 101s and 102 days, and before they get back, it's gonna be like 108, 109 certain days. So, I mean, these guys are out here working. They're hydrating. They're making sure they're gonna be in shape. I'm gonna do my best part to make sure they all show up camp ready and healthy, and we're gonna roll from there.
I thought the 90s over here in Massachusetts was rough. They will be plenty ready going at it in 100 degrees, man. That's crazy. And Alex Dawson also, he's been in the mix for that number 2 corner spot, and he's been competitive. I've been saying since before they haven't put on the pads yet, before they got on the field, I really thought he could be a guy that took a step forward and really solidified his spot. So I'm excited to see what happens after you guys get to work with him. Really hoping to see all these guys take a step forward, of course. Now, before I get you out here, kind of a fun question to end on. What's a misconception about playing defensive back that you wish more NFL fans or just football fans in general had a better understanding of?
I don't think people understand that the defensive position of playing a corner or a safety is pretty much all reactionary. So, we don't have the luxury of guessing a lot. I know on TV it looks like a lot of these guys are guessing and they guess right, but I'm like, man, one wrong guess on a double move or something, those are touchdowns, at this level. So, we got to be very sound. Your eyes have to be very elite. To play on Sundays, you have to have elite eyes. Mm-hmm. And you have to have elite skill, speed, all that type of stuff. So, contrary to what it looks like on TV, man, these are some of the best athletes in the world playing defense because it's all reaction. To be able to move backwards fast and then plant and change directions and go forward, you know what I'm saying? Like we always joke around, and I tell the guys, like, the offensive guys know where they're going. They can run in a straight line, cut out, cut in. Everybody knows there's a pattern. We talk about route patterns and concepts. On defense, it's like, hey, we got to try to have a perfect play to stop whatever they're doing. We don't know what they're doing when they break the huddle. They break the huddle with 4 wide receivers. They can still run the football. But, so every call is designed to try to stop every play. So, you got to have, if you're running whatever coverage, that coverage is designed to stop it, run, pass, deep, short, all that type of stuff. So we got to go through a whole processing point of, okay, is it a run? No. Okay, get my eyes back to my guy. Is it a short pass? No. Okay, I got to speed up. Is it a long pass? Yes. Like there's a lot of processing that goes through each play. So we got to give these guys some grace. Younger me used to be on the internet just mad at all this guy here. And then, the older I've gotten, I'm like, man, once you get to that college level, and then some of these guys going to play pro, you figure out, man, this defensive playbook is tough. There's so many adjustments to everything. You got to learn just as much as the offense. Even though it doesn't look or sound alike, but you got to learn just as much. There's a lot of auto checks. There's a lot of different concepts. Not to mention, if you switch a team, you got to learn a whole new scheme sometimes, whole new philosophy. So. These guys have to be intellects out there as well as elite athletes.
Yes, sir. Cornerback is the hardest position to play physically in the world, and I will die on that hill. And then you throw in also the mental side, like you said. Quarterback obviously is kind of in a realm of its own, but cornerback is right there. Thank you for some of that context. I'm going to clip this and use it at some point in the season when I got fans on Twitter mad that somebody gave up like a 10-yard curl. I'm going to come right back to this. So, Coach.
Hey. They better be thankful for the 10-yard curl give-ups and not a 50-yard bomb or something like that. It matters. Like, a lot of people are like, hey, man, 10-yard curl, we live to see another down.
Yes.
You give up too many of them deep shots, man, you might be on the waiver wire the next week.
Especially on this defense. That's what I'm saying, Coach. Thank you so much for your time, your perspective. This has been an absolute blast. Please let the people know where they can find you if they want your insights, maybe they want some training down the road, and also anything else you just want to let people know before I let you out of here.
Got you. So I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Flight Skills with the Z at the end. For all the young DBs out there, we have an app. So you go to my Instagram. It's in the book now section of my Instagram. There's an app that we have dropped to be able to share behind the scenes information from our sessions, working on some online training type things like that to help the guys that are not here in Texas. But if you got the time, come to Texas and get that work.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Once again, Coach Blake, thank you so much for your time. And thank you all, as always, for watching. Now, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We will see you next time. Peace, y'all.